Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I said that we were going to go ahead and reassemble the Xbox One S. So that is indeed what we are going to do in this video. So what I need to do is I need to get my thermal paste and some cotton buds to clean off the APU and to clean off the old thermal paste that is applied here. So bear with me while I try and get it out. There it is. In order to clean it, I'm going to go ahead and use some cotton buds to just dry off this, or not to dry off, but to wear off the old kind of like dryish thermal paste. It wasn't 100% dry. It was still, some of it was still wet, but most of it was dry. You know, particularly all this bit that's out here. All this bit is, you know, very dry. So this bit is often very difficult to go ahead and replace because it's in between all these other chips. So it can be very difficult to remove this. So when removing it, I would advise you to just take your time, because the last thing you don't want to, you know, force off any of these chips. So just go around it, slow and steady. Just remove all the old thermal paste that surrounds the chip, because the chip itself is where pretty much all the heat will be produced, so that's where you want it as clean as possible. So again, trying to remove all this old stuff around these other chips can be very difficult, because, you know, at that point the thermal paste is so dry. But go ahead and clean it, and then once mine's all clean, I will get back to you with how to apply the perfect amount of thermal paste for the Xbox One S. Okay, so after you've gone ahead and cleaned the chip as much as possible, hopefully you guys can see that. Pretty much brand spanking new, super shiny. It looks really cool when you see this up close and personal. Hopefully you guys can see that. So that's the APU, that's the CPU and GPU combined. The Xbox One was already quite weak, very weak when it was released, even in comparison to the PS4. So, you know, it's a bit disappointing how weak this chip is, but nonetheless, you know, it's able to run games. So there's that. So yeah. So now we're gonna apply our thermal paste. So just take off the lid. This lid is practically impossible to remove. Go ahead and just push down lightly. There we go, that's a decent amount of thermal paste, not too much, not too little. And what you can do, if you want, is you can go ahead and get a sort of spatula, and you can go ahead and just spray the, not spray, but spread the thermal paste across the APU, which I'm going to go ahead and show now. So you can go and get your sort of spatula or spreading tool. You can go ahead and just spread it across the APU like so. Just try and make sure that as much of the chip itself is covered, because at the end of the day this is what's producing the heat. You want to make sure that this is as cool as possible. So there we are. So that's the chip itself covered. You can go ahead and pour a little bit as well on the heatsink, just as like an extra sort of precautionary method, if you like. So what I'm going to go and do is actually open this up again. I'm just going to go ahead and spread a little bit on the heatsink, just like a little bit of a dollop, little dot. Get my spatula again, just sort of spread it on the base of the heatsink. So I've just gone ahead and just spread it a little bit on the heatsink, as you can see. Left a bit of a dollop there. Just try and spread that out. But anyway, when you go ahead and put it back together, the pressure will just naturally spread it out anyway. So it's fine to leave it as it is. So now the next step is to go ahead and apply the fan to the heatsink like so. So this is how you do it. So you just kind of like clip it onto one side and just go ahead and just slap it down. It will make a bit of a snap, but yeah, that's how you attach the fan back onto the heatsink. And the measurement is to do it like this. So you want to put this bit over here close to that. So just guide it with the green holes. Through like so. Attach the fan connector back to its socket, like so. There you go. Then you're going to go ahead and flip the motherboard the other way around. Like so. Get the clamp again and go ahead and just line it up roughly. This can be in any orientation, it doesn't matter. And you just go ahead and press down on these. Last one will always be the most difficult. This one doesn't seem to want to go back in. There we go. So it's a bit difficult, but as you can see, none of them are loose. I've gone ahead and clamped it down, so that's solidly in place. So you can go ahead and bring back the fan and the heatsink back up way around, like so. The next step is to put the motherboard back into the sort of metal chassis that it was in before. I seem to have misplaced mine. I'm not sure how I did that, to be honest with you. Oh, there it is. I was wondering where was it? I was so confused. Anyway, so we've got it. Going to put that down like so. Then we just need to sort of line the motherboard up so that it slots in. ports are there. That's in there, that's in there. That's attached to that. So that's not getting loose anymore anytime soon. Still not 100% matched up yet. See, there are the holes, whatnot, that should sort of go through. There's one there. Yep, that looks about right. Oh, there we go. So that's gone through there now. And yeah, so that's snapped in place. Next step is to go ahead and put the metal piece. So we can go ahead and just slide it back in. It just fits in like that. Yep. Just like that. And the next step is to get your power supply. This thing was an absolute pain to remove, so I'm gonna go and assume it's a bit of a pain to add back, but you never know. So just line it up, cable in till it's 100% secured, like so, then wind it back. And there are some things that it should sort of align to. You can kind of use the power cable as a rough guide. There are 3 holes there to use as a guide, which sort of like aid the process of putting it back in. There we go. Those 3 holes are there, so you can tell that the power supply is now in there. Still a bit wiggly, but that's because of the lack of the screw that it's got. But over here it's nice and firm. You can see the power cable there, so that's nice and tucked in there. Now here I've gone ahead and grabbed the disk drive, and I want to go ahead and do a bit of a tear down of this as well. So let me get my trusty screwdriver again. Get a T9, I think it's a T9. Go ahead and get the screw. Go ahead and remove this big black screw. Like so. Go ahead and put that there. It's a big black screw. It's different in comparison to the others, so it should be relatively easy for you guys to see it. Now this cable here should be able to easily sort of remove it. Although I might need to get the pliers again. Or you could actually see if you could use tweezers. Tweezers might be able to get this out if you guys are seeing this. Go ahead and just, it's a bit wide. Just sort of grab on. Like so. Never mind, it's a bit hard to actually grip on, but if you just sort of like even grab it with the wires. Just don't really have much leverage with any of these sort of connectors, so I'm gonna go to get some pliers, and that should be able to get it out. Okay, so I've got some pliers. Grab the black connector and just slightly wiggle and pull it out. There we go. There's that connector. And grab this white part. Do a bit of the same thing. That one's definitely a bit more of a harder one. Put those connectors off to one side. And this plastic piece should sort of come out. It's kind of hooked on with this metal part. So you sort of have to push the metal part down that this black plastic piece will come out. Like so. Up there. Then the next step is to remove this piece here. Well, actually you've got some Phillips screws hiding underneath, so get a Phillips screwdriver. I've got one here, small one. Peel back this sort of mesh. These Phillips screws at the bottom. These are tight. Going to need a bit more torque to remove them. I think that's good size. There we go, no problem. Just need a bigger screw. Here. There we are. That's all the screws done there. This piece should now just come out pretty much. Okay, so I've gone ahead and removed the covers. So there was this cover here, which had the screw in that you just remove. Then it just slides out. Then this cover here had this sticky part. It kind of just folds out like a book. You can go ahead and pull it off. It's still a bit sticky, so it should just, when you put it back together, stick together again. That will give the upper side of the disk drive. You can go ahead and see if everything's alright, if there's any sort of loose parts. After that, you're going to want to go ahead and sort of unhook these parts here. We've got 3 hooks there, there and there. Sort of pull up. It should sort of just pull away like that. You should get to this stage here. There are some bits down here that sort of compress it as well. We should get to a part where the actual disk drive is sort of like sliding in and out in this sort of housing. So this stage, you just sort of pull it out and it should just pretty much come out like so. So that's the casing. And this is pretty much this drive. So here you can kind of see if anything's gone wrong. There's not really much more inside you can really get without it becoming very, very difficult. You've got some screws here and there which you can sort of go ahead and take a look at, but here is sort of where the main part of it is, essentially. So here you go, diagnose, see if everything's right. Still got the teeth there on the rubber bands. Rubber bands seem to be in good health as well. There's no sort of loose parts. The laser, if you guys want to see that, is on the underside. So the laser would be here. It's on the other side, unfortunately. Actually, you can't see it as easily as on the PS5 one. It would be on the underside. So that's the disk drive there. So at this point, we can go ahead and put the disk drive back in. If you remember, the 3 hooks for the top side of it. So the disk drive should sort of just go back in. I'm going to flip it on the side. We took it out. Just do it nice and gently. Not like that. That's not gently. That's not gently. Sure that it is underneath. Should sort of slot back in like that. If you know you've done it correctly when it's sort of aligned. Top bit, you can snap those plastic pieces in place. And that's that part, so that's back in the casing. Next step is to go ahead and put this sort of flap on. This flap can just go in like that, and this last bit can just sort of attach like that. Like so. You can go ahead and get the screws back. So while I was in the disk drive, all I did is there are 2 little rollers. I went ahead and just cleaned those just so it takes the disc in a bit more nicely. Let's get the screws back. Screw them back in. Got the 4 screws. Don't want to do them too much, otherwise you might end up scraping them. Doesn't really matter which screw goes into which here, because they're all the same screw. So go ahead and just put them in. Don't put them in too tightly, so once they start getting firm, just leave it at that. These last 2 were a little bit underneath, so you might have to end up still peeling back the thingy, so that's okay. Just peel it back a little bit, put it back in. There's that screw. And the last one is really covered up for me, so just have to peel that back. That screw done. Just press it down to secure it a bit more. Then we've got this general plastic piece which went at the back like this way. So remember, we've got that metal clippy thing essentially. So here, generally it's supposed to just slide in, and you know you've done it correctly when that sort of metal piece is now sort of straight. For me it's still a bit bent, so it's not completely covered, but I think overall it's alright. It's gonna head and fit like that. So yeah, everything is good. It's in there. Doesn't seem to really go in anymore, so that's alright. Can go ahead and put on the back screw that we removed. This was the T9. There we go. Screws in like that. That's the disk drive back. Well, not completely back. We've still got some pieces Now this side and into here. That should just clip in. Goodness, even putting it in is a bit of a struggle. So I think that's in now. Looks to be in. And then the power cable, the grey side definitely was in there. So that was a lot more easier to put in. Goodness, I'm a bit worried now. Let me go ahead and see if I can take out that black cable. Yeah, okay, so that cable still comes out. And all the pins inside are not bent, so I know I did that correctly. So let's go ahead and put this back in. It's a bit difficult to get this thing in, but just get it in. Doesn't really move anymore. So that's about it. It's about as in as that's going to get. So just this drive back to how it was. So we can now go ahead and get the motherboard back. Let's go ahead and do that. This is the motherboard. We can go ahead and put the disk drive back in. So disk drive's in place. It's got guiding holes to ensure that it goes in. Go ahead and connect the cables. So snapped in place. This one goes in here. There we go. I think that's solidly in place there. Now for the hard drive. So we've got this connector, clips in there, then this connector here, connects into that, so, and just folds inwards, kind of like a book. Line this hook side up with the hard the thingy. Got some hook guides, sort of lead you in place. Yep, that's pretty much it in terms of the component side of things. So you know that's that when you can see a straight line right through it. So that's all nice and secure. Now for that small plastic piece, the pokey bits go into place in these two sort of grooves. So they slide in, it sort of just sits there snugly. Let's say with the fan cable on coming a bit out, just tuck in the fan cables before I put this in, like so. There we go. Not secure yet. It's supposed to be in line with the screws. So as you can see straight down, that you can tell you've done that correctly. I apologize if I keep shaking the camera, guys. But yeah, there we go. That's that. And the next step is to grab the power board, which is this one. Connect it back to this side. remember that just clipped in there. This was held in place with 4 screws. So you can go ahead and get your 4 screws. Put that in there. Screw it back in place. If the screw is even going in, that would be great. I'm actually using the wrong screws. You can go ahead and get your Wi-Fi card as well. Over here. Just connect that onto the other side. Like so. Just connects on like that. And the next step is to get the other metal cover here and just line everything up so everything is nice. Just tightly compact it together. Make sure the screw holes are lined up, it goes through so. Yeah, just to stop anything from shaking about. So once you've got that cover on, you can flip the console around and you can go to begin to put the silver screws. So the silver screws, one goes here. Another one goes here. Another one goes in here. And another one goes in here. Oh. So, once you've gone ahead and done that, the next step is to go ahead and put the screws back on. So, here, 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 and here are the silver screws. Here, 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 here are 4 black screws. Over here, we've got the 4 black screws for the power card. Here, we've got 3 black screws for the Wi-Fi card. Now the next step is to go ahead and put on the white cover. So get the white cover, like so. And it's time to put that on. So you just put on the plastic case, as so. It should pretty much just find its way. Like so, so it just clips in. So, around. Front side. Check that the buttons click. Got a nice click there. Got a nice click on both sides, so we know we've done that correctly. So that side of things is all good. We've connected it all properly there. Then we can go ahead and flip it the other way. Back again. And we can put in the remaining 6 green screws. So that goes in there, that goes in there, goes in there, there, there. Never mind that. There and there. So now we can go ahead and screw those back on. There we go. That's the 6 remaining green screws. Cover my isopropyl alcohol solution. I'm going to put that to one side. And the last bit is going to be a bit disturbing. Excuse me. I've got this case. And essentially this is supposed to just sort of fit in place, basically. So just put that in, apply some pressures. You will hear a lot of clicks. That is normal, I assure you. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. It's now all back in place. If you want, go get your sticker back. Go ahead and put it back on. Microsoft will know that you've been in it anyway, but you know, you can go ahead and just put it on just for the sake of completeness. Hope it doesn't come loose. If you want, you can go to put some glue on it or something. But nonetheless, that's it. That's the Xbox One S back. Double check that the buttons will click. Got a nice click on everything, so we can tell that hopefully everything works. We can go ahead and test it, make sure everything runs well. But that's the Xbox One S teardown. Hopefully you guys found this useful. I do apologize if it was a bit long. I wanted to make it as thorough as possible to get into this drive as well. It's my first time opening this. So yeah, again, hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down, and yeah, thanks a lot for watching. Bye.